Hey everyone, let's continue our discussion. Till now, I have uploaded 9 videos of ancient history series, and in my previous video, we were discussed till Gupta Empire. So kindly watch my previous videos for better understanding of this video. So let's start our discussion. So in this video, we will understand about Harshavardhana era that emerged immediately after Gupta Empire. So before understanding about Harshavardhana era, we need to understand a very important system that was exist during Gupta period. That is feudalism. This is very important for both prelims and mains perspective. Okay, so it is very important. So why I am explaining this concept in Harshavardhana era means that you will understand after completing this feudalism concept. Okay, so let's start this feudalism concept. During Gupta period, that feudalism concept was also known as Samanta system. Okay, kindly remember this, very important. That same feudalism concept was started in Europe around 5th century AD. This you will study in the world history part. Okay, so let's understand about feudalism concept. Feudalism means decentralization of authority, which means during Gupta period the whole land belonged to the king, so he had his own discretion to grant this land to anyone. Okay, so a piece of land was called as fief during that time. Fief word was derived from Latin word. Okay, so from that word only that feudalism word arrived. Okay, so let's understand how this feudalism system was working. Okay, as I said earlier, the whole land was belonged to the king, so that king was granting a tax free piece of land to the nobles means it may be brahmins or talented scholars or Buddhist monk. Okay, so that you will understand further later. Okay, after getting a piece of land from king, these nobles were giving monetary or military support to the king. Okay, then that nobles who got land from king, they were giving the same land to the knights or military commands. Okay, so in return these knights or military command were giving military protection to the nobles, or they may giving military support to direct to the king. Okay, then later that knights or military commands who obtained a piece of land from nobles were giving the same land to the peasants. Okay, same lands to the peasants. Peasants means farmers. Okay, then these peasants were giving agricultural produce or tax to the knights or military commands. Okay, this was the system exist during Gupta period. This system is known as Samanta system. Okay, kindly remember. Okay, so let's understand some of the keywords, which means the in hierarchy of Samanta system, king was king was called supreme lord, and all other three hierarchies were called as vassals. Very important, please remember. Okay, let's understand why this Samanta system exists during Gupta period. As I discussed in Gupta period chapter, at the middle of Gupta period, that Unas kingdom from Central Asia, they were frequently attacking on Gupta Empire. So during Gupta period, most of the trade was conducting through land route. So due to frequent attack by Unas kingdom, that trade got disturbed. So due to this, that trade deficit started, which means it disturbed the export and import balance. So due to that, that inflow of gold coins were dropped. Okay, so for that, king was not able to pay salaries to the officials in the court. So that king is started to distribute land among nobles. Okay, this was the reason, this is one of the reason for arise of Samanta system. Okay, then second reason was king was levying more tax on agriculture for paying tax to the officials. So this was opposed by peasants. Okay, this was the reason for rise of Samanta system. Okay, Then let's quickly understand the types of land grants to the nobles. Okay, what are the types of land grants that was exist during Gupta period? That land grants was given to the nobles. Okay, first one is Brahmadeya. Brahmadeya means that land was granted to the Brahmins only. Okay. Second one is Devadeya. That land was granting to the non-Brahmins, such as granting to temples, then talented scholars and poets. Okay. Then third one is Agrahara. Agrahara is also known as Rajayukas. Okay, kindly remember. Then, which means in these two cases, above two cases, that land was granting temporarily, which means king have discretion to taken back that land when they were whenever these people made any kind of crime activities. But in case of Agrahara, the king was granting land to people permanently. But this in this system, getting land was very difficult. Okay, king was granting land permanently. Okay, that system was called Agrahara. Okay, so in Agrahara system, forced labor emerged. Okay, this is very important, which means forced labor were called as vistis. Very very important keyword. This vistis were keyword was asked in UPSC 2019 prelims exam. Kindly remember. Okay guys, forced labors emerged during, which means in Agrahara system of land grants. Okay, so here very very important sentence is there, between three land grant system. That is, in case of Brahmadeya and Devadeya, the king was not given any rights to owners of land. As I said earlier, king may taken back the land at any time if they involved in any kind of criminal activities. Okay, but in case of Agrahara system of grand land, they enjoyed all administrative, judicial and revenue rights, which means they are enjoying same equal to the king. Okay, they were enjoying the same power that was equal to the king. Okay, so this Agrahara type of land grants made to emerge many feudal lords. Okay, as soon as king was became weak. Okay, so Pushyabhutis were one among the many feudal lords that were emerged during Gupta period. Okay, feudal lords were also called feudatories. Okay, so these Pushyabhutis were belong to Vardhana dynasty. Okay, from there this Harshavardhana era started. Okay, so that's why I am explaining this that Samanta system or feudalism concept in this Harshavardhana period. Okay, you understand, right? Okay, let's continue about Harshavardhana period. Okay, as I said, this Vardhana or Harshavardhana era rulers were feudatories of Gupta. Okay, then the founder of Vardhana dynasty was Pushyabhutis. Okay, why this Vardhana dynasty was called as Harshavardhana? Let's know about it. After two to three successors of Pushyabhutis, which is he was the founder of Vardhana dynasty, Harsha was expanded more territories. Okay, so it was called as Harshavardhana dynasty. Okay, kindly remember. Okay, then let's quickly know about sources of Harsha or Harsha dynasty or Harshavardhana. Okay, then literary two sources. One, that is literary sources, then inscriptions. In literary sources, that biography of Harsha was explained by Harsha Charita book that was written by Bana Bhatta. Okay, please remember. Then second literary source was Yun Sang's travel account. It also explains about Harshavardhana. Okay, he visited to he was from China. He visited to that Harshavardhana court during Harshavardhana period. Okay, then third literary source was Harsha's drama books. He was also dramist, or he was also a writer, that Harsha. Then he also written three books, that is drama books, that is Ratnavali, Nagananda, then Priyadarshika. Okay, can you remember? Then let's understand what are the inscription sources of Harsha. Two inscriptions were found, that is Madhuban and Sonpat plate inscriptions. It explains about chronology of Harsha. Okay, then second source was Bansera inscriptions. In Bansera inscription, the sign of Harsha was engraved. Okay, this is very important. These two inscriptions explains about ruling of Harsha. Okay, then let's quickly understand Harsha's military conquest. Harsha's military conquest were described by for these points. Okay, he overthrew King Sashanka from Kanauj dynasty and made this Kanauj city as its dynasty's capital city. Okay, which is Kanauj is in Uttar Pradesh. Okay, then he defeated Dhruvasena II of Maitraka dynasty in Vallabhi in Gujarat. Okay, then he fought against Western Chalukyas. They were ruling in Deccan region, but he was failed to defeat this Western Chalukyas. Okay, then he also controlled Nepal and Kashmir, and also he defeated some Kalinga rulers. Okay, let's understand about religion of Harsha. Harsha was a devotee of Shiva. Before earlier he was a devotee of Shiva. Then later he started to preach Hinayana Buddhism. Okay, kindly remember Hinayana Buddhism. He started to preach. But in case of Gupta period, that that religion system was just like later Vedic period. But in Harsha period, again Buddhism emerged. Okay, but that later Vedic period system were also exist. Along with that, Buddhism was also emerged. Okay, but Gupta period, as I said, Buddhism has started to decline. Okay, let's quickly understand Harsha and Buddhism. After the visit of Yun Sang was a Chinese traveler. He visited to India during Harshavardhana period. Okay, that Harsha converted to Mahayana Buddhism. Before that, he was preaching that Hinayana Buddhism. Can you remember? Okay, then he prohibited killing of animals. That Harsha prohibited killing of animals. Then he tolerant to all religion. Okay, okay, we can say that he was respecting all religion. Okay, he erected many stupas, viharas, and monasteries. Okay, kindly remember. Then let's understand Kanauj assembly. It was held for 23 days. Okay, to honor Chinese traveler Yun Sang. This assembly was arranged by Harsha. Okay, many kings, scholars, Brahmins, Buddhist, and Jainis were attended this Kanauj assembly. It was held in Uttar Pradesh. Okay, then let's understand about Allahabad conference. It was held once in 5 years during Harsha period. Then Yun Sang also mentioned in his account about Allahabad conference. This much you can remember about Allahabad conference. Then let's quickly know about Harsha's administration. Harsha's administration was somewhat same as Gupta Empire, but he was very punctual while discharging his duties. Okay, during this period, tax was liberal. Okay, and also forced labor was rare. Okay, forced labor means they were forcefully which is labor like man were forcefully employed in duties without paying any kind of salary. Okay, then another concept is which means 1/6 of agricultural produce was collecting as tax during Harsha's administration. Okay, it was same as Gupta and Mauryan Empire. Okay, then army strength was more than Mauryans. We can say that during Harsha period, army strength of was more than Mauryans. More cavalries, elephants, lions were exist during Harsha period. Okay, and that much only you can remember. No need to remember everything. It is not much important. Then let's quickly know about society and economy during Harsha period. As I said, as we discussed in Gupta period, same four Varna system were exist um, during Harsha period. Okay, then here widow remarriage was declined. Okay, and dowry and sati practices were prevalent during that Harsha period. So trade and commerce started to decline. Okay, in case of Gupta period, that trade and commerce was that was very rapid, but in case of Harsha, it was started to decline, so less number of coins were issued during Harsha period. Okay, let's quickly know about art and culture during Harsha period. The famous poets that were exist during Harsha empire or Harshavardhana era, that is Banabhata. He wrote two books, that is Harsha Charita. It explains about biography of Harsha, and Kadambari. Okay. Then other two famous poets are Mathanga Divakara and Bharti Hari. Okay, kindly remember the names only. No need to remember books. Okay. Then that Harsha itself was a poet. Okay, he written a drama book that were called as Ratnavali, Nagananda, Priyadarshika. Okay, some of the architectures of Harshavardhana period were 8 feet tall copper statue of Buddha was found. Then brick temple of Lakshmana in Sirpur village of the Chhattisgarh. Then monasteries and temples at Nalanda were also belongs to Harshavardhana period. Okay. Then let's quickly know about Nalanda University, which means Nalanda University was founded during Gupta period. That is Gupta ruler Kumara Gupta. Okay, but it has become famous during Harsha period. Okay, this university is also called as Mahayana University because Mahayana Buddhism was preaching during in this university. Okay, but Hinayana University was at Wallaby. Kindly just remember this sentence also. Okay. In Nalanda University, professors were called as Pandits. Okay, this Nalanda University is in Bihar. Kindly remember this. Okay, in this university, they taught yoga, Vedas, logic, medicine, astrology, then Mahayana Buddhism, and also they were teaching Hinayana doctrines. Okay, kindly remember. Then medium of instruction was Sanskrit. Okay, so this Nalanda University was famous during that time, so that many scholars around the world attracted to this Nalanda University. Okay, kindly remember. So this much is sufficient for this Harsha period. So in my next concept, I am explaining about science and medicine during entire ancient history. The same concept I was explained in the Gupta period, but in that period I did not explain it properly. So you just neglect that science and medicine part that I explained in the Gupta period. So just remember this concept only, which means it explains all that great scholars related to science and medicine. Okay, just neglect the part that I explained in the Gupta period. I will explain thoroughly in this video. Okay, so let's start with mathematics part. Ancient Indians made three distinct contributions in mathematics, that is decimal system, then notation system, and use of zero. Okay, just three is not there, just eliminate this, just use of zero. They contributed for three distinct field. Okay, that is decimal system, notation system, and use of zero. Okay, let's understand decimal system. This decimal system is used in 5th century AD. Okay, by Indians. Okay, by Indians itself, they were first used by Indians only. Okay, then let's understand use of zero. Zero was discovered by an unknown Indian about 2nd century BC. Okay, it was not discovered by Aryabhatta. Kindly remember. Okay, that is wrong concept. If UPSC ask who invented zero, means unknown Indian during 2nd century BC. If two options are there, for example, who discovered the number zero, if two options are there, Aryabhatta and unknown Indian, you have to tick or you have to mark unknown Indian. Okay, that is the correct answer. Okay, kindly remember. Then let's understand notation system. Indian notation system was adopted by Arabs who spread it in the Western world. Okay, Indian numericals are called Arabics in English. Okay, they are found in inscriptions of Ashoka. Okay, they were also found in inscription of Ashoka. Okay, then let's understand some of the scholars of astronomy and mathematics. That this was also explained in Gupta period, but that's you just neglect that part. You just understand here only. Okay, that is mathematician, great mathematician and astronomer, that is Aryabhatta. He was exist during 5th century AD, which means in Gupta period. Okay, he formulated, you just remember the key points here, that is very important for prelims perspective. Okay, he formulated the rules for finding the area of triangle. Okay, he used a zero during his period, then calculated the position of planars according to Babylonian method. He calculated the position of planets. This one is planets, sorry, actually. According to Babylonian method, then discovered the cause of lunar and solar eclipses. Then measured the circumference of Earth. Then he found out that sun is stationary and Earth rotates around the sun in its own axis. Okay, this is also true. Then he written a book that's called Aryabhatiya. Okay, can you remember? Then let's know about second astronomer, that is Varaha Mihira. He was exist during 6th century AD. Okay, he was an astrologer. He composed Pancha Siddhantika that deals with five astronomical system. Okay, then he wrote two famous books, that is Brihad Samhita and Brihad Jataka. Brihad Samhita deals with astrology, astronomy, marriage, weather, architecture, whereas Brihad Jataka deals with astrology. Okay, then Varaha Mihira also stated that moon rotates around the earth and earth rotates around the sun. Okay, this is also true. Okay, can you remember? Okay, then let's understand the third scholar, that is Bodhayana. Bodhayana theorem also I explained in Buddhism chapter. Okay, just we understand here also. He was a great Indian mathematician. He was, as I said earlier, he explained Bodhayana theorem. It means it is same as Pythagoras theorem. He explained earlier before Pythagoras theorem came. Okay, he was an author of early Sulabha Sutra. It is called as Bodhayana Sulabha Sutra. Okay, then he also calculated value of pi. You know the value, that is 3.14. This is very very important, guys. Calculated value of pi. Okay, let's understand another scholar, that is Brahmagupta. He was a great astronomer and mathematician. He was an author of Brahma Sputa Siddhanta and Kandaka Daya books. Okay, can you remember the book's name? Okay, Brahma Siddhanta is the earliest text to treat zero as a number rather than simply placeholder digit. Before Brahmagupta, that zero was treated as placeholder digit. Then after he proved that zero as a number. Okay, can you remember? He gave solution for general linear and quadratic equations. Can you remember? Okay, then he gave formula for cyclic quadrilateral. Okay, then in astronomy he discovered methods for calculating the positions of heavenly bodies, then calculation of solar and lunar eclipses, and also he stated that all things gravitate to earth. Okay, he explained about gravity also. Okay, then let's understand another scholar, that is Bhaskaracharya. He was a great mathematician and astrologer. He extended Brahmagupta's work on number system. Okay, his mathematical works are called Lilavati and Bijaganita. Okay, he discovered time taken by the earth to orbit the sun. Okay, in his book Siddhanta Ceremony, he mentioned about planetary position, eclipses, cosmography, mathematical techniques, and astronomical equipments. Okay, can you remember? Then in his Surya Siddhanta book, he made a note on force of gravity. Okay, kindly remember. Then let's understand scholars in medicine field. That is 3 scholars were found, and that I also explained in Gupta period, but we study in depth about them. That is Sushanta, Charaka, and Vagbhata. Sushanta was exist around 2nd century AD. Okay, he was called as father of surgery and plastic surgery. Very very important, guys. Can you remember? Okay. Then his book Sushanta Samhita describes the method of operation cataract, stone disease, and several other alignments. Okay, can you remember? He used different kinds of surgical instruments for operation during that time. Okay, kindly remember, very very important. And let's understand second medical scholar, that is Charaka. He was exist around 3rd century BC. Okay, he was a principal contributor of Ayurveda. His book Charaka Samhita describes medical treatise, and it is like an encyclopedia of Indian medicine. Okay, kindly remember, very very important. Okay, he was called as Indian father of medicine. Okay, Charaka was the first physician to present concept of digestion, metabolism, and immunity. Okay, he was explained about digestion, metabolism and immunity, very important. Okay, then let's understand another scholar, that is Vagbata. He was a famous medical scholar during Gupta period. Okay, I explained in the Gupta period also, but just you understand here. Okay, just neglect the Gupta period. Okay, he was an author of Ashtanga Samgraha. It explains about summary of 8 branches of medicine. Okay, just remember this much only. So here till now we completed the ancient history in North India. Okay, here that ancient history of North India ended. So meanwhile meanwhile there exist South kingdoms during ancient Indian period. So that we will explain in the upcoming session or upcoming videos. So that upcoming chapters will be Chalukyas, Rashtrakutas, Pallavas, Cholas, and Sangamyas. This belongs to the that South Indian dynasties that exist in simultaneously with North Indian kingdom.